Hello and welcome everyone to Resume Writing and Interview Best Practices. We will get started today and learn how to create that special resume designed to attract recruiters to get them to contact you for that interview and ultimately and hopefully get your foot in the door. So just a quick disclosure that the information in these slides are general information and not a promise of perfection or a cure to a person's situation. And here's information about who I am and my experience and qualifications. Feel free to pause the feed to read about me. So let's get started with resume writing and formatting. So what is a resume and why is it important? It shows a future employer what you have done in the past. It details your skills and training, work experience, and education, and most importantly, the accomplishments you have made with past employers. A resume is a document that shows potential employers what they need to know about you to consider you for a job. It's a tool to use to help you get to the next step, the interview. It helps employers quickly see why you would be a good fit for the job. Being a good fit for a job is paramount to hiring managers. You want your resume to show the hiring manager that your highlights will benefit them. The good old with them. What's in it for me? Employers want to know how you can make them look good. So starting with the basics, it's very important to list your name, address, telephone number, and email address. Most HR recruiters work through email, and email addresses should be easy to understand and should be professional. So hotmama@yahoo.com may need to be changed, just saying. There are multiple providers out there that can provide free email services such as Yahoo and Google, so utilize these. You also want to have a summary of qualifications, which will list out a quick overview, bulleted items of your skills and what you're capable of. This also makes it easier for recruiters to get a nice, well-rounded summary of your qualifications without reading the entire resume. This should be listed at the beginning. So recruiters generally take less than 5 minutes to review a resume before moving on to the next one. Therefore, this section is very important to grab their attention. Many jobs require specific certification, skill, or degree. Your education and certifications should be easily visible to make it easy for the recruiters to determine if you are immediately qualified for a specific role. Sometimes people list these towards the end. It is a matter of preference whether you list it at the top or at the bottom. There are also recruiter robots out there that scan resumes for keywords to quickly identify candidates' resumes for the recruiter to put a physical eye on. Be aware of those. So keywords are important. Experience and work history should be listed after the summary of qualifications. This is a breakdown of your job duties, summarized to give the recruiter a better idea of your daily responsibilities in that role. Community service and memberships are optional, and it doesn't hurt to add them. Some organizations are very big on community service and appreciate those that are active in their community charities. Memberships such as fraternities and sororities are optional to list, as well as many of these organizations have established benefits with people affiliated with the group. So in other words, it could give you an advantage if the hiring manager happens to be in the same membership group you're in or may appreciate the membership, but it doesn't hurt. References available upon request is very cliche and unnecessary to put on your resume. If the employer requires these references, they will ask or have you list them on your application, your physical application. So a resume should be no more than 1 or 2 pages in length, and at the most 2, only if you're showing a succession of being in the same industry and have gradually promoted within that industry over the years. Having more than 1 page with a list of various jobs within various industries can portray instability or indecisiveness to the recruiter. Some resumes for niche professions that show a long time in that industry may require additional pages for highlights, and this is understood and acceptable to the recruiter, such as executives, VPs, It's very specific jobs, technical, ISD, stuff like that. The best formats will be the formats that are very easy for the recruiter to review. Using bullet points instead of long paragraphs or sentences makes it easy on the eyes and easy to read. So keep that in mind. So this is an example of a resume for a leadership position within the same organization. The example shows a long history of leadership and skills being developed over time. You can format your resume the same way using the same categories listed here. The first part shows a professional summary instead of an objective. The second section shows my highlighted skills. The third section shows my highlighted achievements throughout my career to show proven results. The fourth section begins my notable experience, starting with my current role and going backwards through my leadership history and experience. The fifth section shows my outside leadership experience prior to working at Navy Federal for the benefit of highlighting my continued growth and longevity as a leader in the finance industry. And the sixth section highlights my education, certifications, and licenses, as these are important to complement my continued development of necessary leadership skills, as well as necessary skills to make decision and understanding the jobs of individual contributors that may work for me. And finally, the last section highlights my professional affiliations and community involvement. So the cover letter will provide an introduction of yourself and identify important and pertinent skills that you wish to highlight to the hiring manager. This is similar to the summary listed on your resume. Cover letters were used as an introduction to your resume when you sent resumes through the mail or through email. However, in recent years, since most employers use social media to recruit, cover letters are not necessarily as important, so keep that in mind as well. So the first thing you want to do is you want to tailor your resume. So when creating your resume, you want to tailor that resume for the job you are actually looking for. Remove the unnecessary information and bring tailored information to the forefront. For example, if you're looking for a job as a customer service agent, you want to tailor your resume to highlight the jobs and job duties that gave you customer service responsibilities. You want to highlight these attributes as well as any accomplishments. Once you have tailored your resume for the job that you are applying for, it's time to apply for the job, completing all the application information and then attaching your resume to the application. So this is required for most companies once you're ready to do that. So these are some common resume mistakes that I listed. I have a couple of slides on these. A study was conducted of 100 random resumes, and these were the percentages of the top 6 resume mistakes found by recruiters. Overlooking formatting issues at 58%. So once you have completed your resume in a Word document or word processing program, be sure to save it as a PDF to lock in the format. Uploading a Word document resume to a company's website can come through distorted sometimes, messing up the format. So, and also using the wrong tense at 53%, that's a big one. So if you are currently doing something, make sure it's in the correct tense. For example, present tense. I currently lead a team of risk management specialists who research and investigate fraud. The past tense. In my prior role, I led a team of collection supervisors and specialists who focused ED on mitigating delinquency for credit card accounts over 60 days delinquent, past and present. So make sure that's actually differentiated. As you can see in this analysis, over half the resumes had grammar and misspelled words. This is just a no-no. There are spell check and grammar checks on Word, Microsoft Word, and it makes it easier by highlighting these errors for you. You can right-click on these errors for suggested corrections. They make it really easy for you. So having errors on your resume should not be a thing, including graphics. If you are going for a graphic design position or some type of art position, this may be appropriate, but for most jobs, it's not. So we want to leave those off. Including a headshot. Has been very popular. This is distracting and unnecessary. If you're going for some type of modeling job or actor job or social media influencer job, that might be necessary. But for a regular professional resume, it's not necessary. Sharing references. We spoke earlier about that. It's cliche and will likely be required if you are being considered for the job after the interview process or on the digital application of the employer. So no need to include it on your resume. So these are 7 common mistakes that have been noticed as well. Objective statements are also cliche. Instead, focus on using that space to highlight your skills and qualifications. We already talked about having a reference section being a no-no. Also using common and generic terms such as good communication skills. Well, what does that look like? Explain why behind your, what's the why behind your good communication skills. Be sure to highlight your accomplishments and not just your job duties and tasks. Tailor your resume as we discussed earlier. Get rid of irrelevant information. And don't be too modest. Your resume is a flyer that markets who you are and what you're selling. Your job is to convince the hiring manager or recruiter to buy your product or buy in what you're selling, which is yourself. And remember, always tailor that resume for that specific job. I can't stress that enough. Once you have submitted your application and resume, it's time to send the hiring manager an email to request a short 15-minute meeting to ask a few questions about the job. This will give you some one-on-one time with the manager and a chance to show off any skills or talents you may want to highlight to get you to that interview. Once you have the opportunity to speak with the hiring manager, ask them questions that could tie into you showing off some of your good skill sets and that's pertinent for the job. These types of emails are mostly for internal jobs once you've already gotten your foot in the door of a company and maybe you want to move to another area. However, it doesn't hurt to use one of these for external purposes if you know who the hiring manager is. It doesn't hurt. They may or may not respond. So it's a great idea to create a profile in LinkedIn in these social media sites. Upload your resume and set up your parameters to allow hiring managers to view your profile and your resume. There are many hiring managers that review LinkedIn for talent and will send you notifications for your email in your email box if they're interested. So LinkedIn is a perfect example for it's a very professional social media site and it's good for recruiting. On other social media sites, if your profile is public, anyone can view your posts and pictures. If you're looking for a professional job, err on the side of caution and make your profiles private, as some employees will view social media websites to try and determine the type of characteristics you may have. May not be fair, but sometimes some people do this. This could happen, especially if they are faced with a tough decision between 2 or more candidates and they need to create a process of elimination. And you don't want that to be you. Now let's talk about the interview process. Once you have been notified that you have been invited for an interview, it is important to organize your thoughts, pick out your interview outfit, practice some sample questions, and prepare questions for the hiring manager or recruiter. So your interview outfit should be professional and nothing distracting, such as short skirts, tight pants, excess cleavage, wrinkled clothing, crooked ties, stains, or tennis shoes, sneakers. If you are interviewing for a construction job or a truck driver, you may not need to dress so professional. Polo shirt and khakis with work boots may be acceptable. But for jobs within a professional corporation, you should dress professionally. We will dive into number 2 and 3 shortly in the upcoming slides. Once you have your interview stories and questions prepared, now it's time to practice. Okay, so let's discuss interview best practices. So be sure to know something about the company you're applying for. That's a positive. Pull up their website and review the About section to understand more about the company. Jot down your career highlights so that you can be prepared to share this information with the employer when the interview process starts and when the question presents itself. Sometimes they ask you questions like, tell us a little bit about yourself. Many initial interview questions will begin by maybe sharing something short about who you are or your experiences. So just be prepared for that. Take advantage of showcasing your talents during this time. For example, in one of my interviews, I was asked the initial question, why do you want to leave your current position to work in this department? This is a common question asked by hiring managers as they want to be sure you are interested in the position for the right reasons and not to jump ship from one company or department to the next. I was ready for this question, and this is what I said. Because of my knowledge, experience, and skills, leading is my passion and focus. Working in different areas of the credit union has allowed me the ability to gain valuable experience leading a variety of Navy Federal employees. Although I have never worked in Navy Federal's collection department, I have worked in collections outside the credit union and have been in lending for over 14 years. Throughout my leadership career and education, I have learned administration skills necessary to provide guidance in understanding employee relations, PARs, promotions, and to become an effective team builder and motivator. This is how the interview began in that situation. So also many times in interviews, the panelists will give you one final chance to highlight your skills and talents before the interview is over. Create a short paragraph designed to give that final marketing push to show why you should be the candidate selected for that job. For example, I used this one when landing my role as an assistant manager in a new department that was member facing, which is member focused. So this was what I said. I am a member-focused leader. Navy Federal is a member-focused organization, and because of that focus, each individual unit should also be member-focused. That goes down to the individual level of being member-focused. This will continue to be my focus as increasing the morale, understanding what motivates the employees, and creating a positive departmental culture are the keys to increasing self-efficacy, which will increase production and enhance the members' experience. When you hire me, you hire a leader with the technical and supervisory skills necessary to hit the ground running and proven success at building effective and high-performing teams. So in this conclusion, I highlighted who I am, what I bring to the table, and what I know about the company. I also gave the final marketing push to solicit my abilities and brag about myself a little bit of what I can do. So remember to memorize this paragraph. You don't want to be reading that from a form or something in your interview. But you definitely want to give that last final push. All right, let's talk about some interview categories. So these are the most common categories for interviews. It doesn't matter the industry, 3 or more of these questions, categories will pop up in your interview. Therefore, it's important that you are prepared for them by having stories or situations, tasks ready when these questions are presented. Many interview questions are behavioral based. This means they usually start with, tell me about a time, and require you to explain a specific situation or task, what you did, the action you've taken during the situation, and the results. Hiring managers want to know how well you communicate. Can you take care of their customers? Are you results driven and a producer? Do you take accountability for your actions? How well are you at decision making? What kind of job knowledge do you possess to do the job? How do you handle negative situations? How are you with working with a group, with groups, or are you one of those people that like to work alone? And finally, and very important to supervisors, how are you at receiving developmental feedback? Do you take it personal, or are you positive at receiving this feedback? No manager wants an employee who is difficult to manage, and there are interview questions specifically designed to ask questions to get this kind of feedback. So be sure to have the right stories ready for each situation. Contrary to popular belief, it's actually okay to have some quick memory jogger notes in front of you when interviewing for a quick glance while you're speaking. Do not read from your notes. These are only used for a quick glance to jog your memory. So keep that in mind too. So that brings us to the STAR methodology for interview best practices. This stands for the situation or task, the action, and the results. Formatting your stories or situations from the previously mentioned categories are best communicated when using the STAR method. So let's dive into this methodology. Let's see what it's all about. So the situation, you're going to frame that story with contextual details, offering specifics about the situation, the who, the what, the why, the when. Be specific. The task. Now this is situation or the task, so you can choose one or the other. What were the major tasks involved? What exactly were you faced with? The action. What specific action did you take to tackle that task or overcome the challenge? How did you interact with others? What were your thoughts on or your decision-making process? And what was the specific role in relation to the team and the action? The results. So essentially, well, this is the essential process to your success, the results. So you want to end this story with the results of what happened. They could be good results, they could be bad results, depending on what the question is. So what impact did you have on the company, the team, or your boss? Was this a group effort? How did you measure it? If the outcome wasn't good, what did you learn from this experience? What conclusions did you draw from it? That is the action. So let's do an example. So for example, describe a time when you made a major decision and were really pleased with the outcome. That's a behavioral-based question. Tell me about a time. So let's talk about that. The situational task, and this is a real-life question and interview question that I answered. So the situational task, as an NPS in field mortgage, I was not only tasked with reviewing PALs and approval letters for new loan officers less than 1 year on the team, but I decided to be the one to also train them. This made it easier for me to review and approve their files because they knew what I was looking for. This also made me responsible and accountable for their success in making the right decisions when they were speaking with members and providing them information. So the action. As a trainer and teacher, I became an instructional designer and created a loan officer onboarding and training manual called A Day in the Life of an LO. This manual gave step-by-step instructions from the first day they stepped into the branch until they completed their training with the real estate lending training department. My training manual did not interfere with real estate lending's training, as it was designed to assist the loan officer with the technical skills needed to work the systems, the processes, and the procedural skills needed for the initial contact with the member, and the interpersonal savvy they needed to speak with the realtor. Everything in my manual was not taught in their training class, and this helped them be better prepared to hit the ground running. So what was the result of that? So as a result, my loan officers were very prepared for their training class, more comfortable speaking with the member with confidence, and could hit their goals faster than other LOs coming out of the same training class, therefore creating a high-performing team. And because of this, my manual was given to the training supervisor by a trainer who found value in it and wanted to use some of the instructions for his LO classes. And these are the same kinds of ideas and decisions that I would implement as a processing supervisor. So that was it. So in this story, it can be used for several different subject matters. It could be used for drive for results, effective communication, decision-making, accountability, job knowledge. In other words, if I am asked a question based on any of those 5 subjects, I can use this same story. That is what it means to making sure you have your stories ready. So here's another example of a behavioral-based question. Tell me about a time when you weren't willing to say no to a request and got overloaded. Interviewers generally like to see how you make decisions, how you communicate, what drives you to success so that they can translate it into a possible job fit. Feel free to pause the feed to read the story on this slide to further assist you in understanding the STAR methodology and to begin thinking about the interview stories from your own past experiences. So these are some examples of behavioral-based questions so that you can begin to create your stories for practicing prior to your interview. You will likely have similar questions worded differently, but the premise of the question will likely be based on the category shown to your left. So for instance, tell me about a time when you had to present bad news to a person who had authority over you. This question can relate to accountability, communication, a negative situation, and decision-making. Describe a time when a person with authority over you had to coach you on your performance. Communication, negative situation, accountability, receptive to feedback. Tell me about a time when you had to make a decision and the information available was totally inadequate. This relates to decision-making in a negative situation. Describe a time when you were ordered by a person in power to do something that you didn't want to do. This goes with accountability, decision-making, a negative situation. Tell me about a time when your knowledge of how to maneuver through an organization worked really well for you. That's job knowledge and drive for results. Tell me about a time you stumbled and became frustrated when trying to get something important done in your organization. Decision-making, accountability, drive for results. You see where I'm getting at here. Tell me about a time when you had to deal with two important things at once. A story like this can go with customer service, decision-making, accountability, drive for results. In other words, all you need to do is create or come up with 6 or 7 stories from your experiences in the past that will likely relate or can fit into multiple different questions that you're asked in an interview, as long as you have a story for effective communication, customer service, drive for results, accountability, decision-making, job knowledge, a negative or challenging situation, working with a group, and receptive to feedback. If you have a story for each one of those, you will be prepared for interview questions that they ask you. Now, mind you, if you're going for a specific technical role or some type of specific job role that requires some niche experience, they may ask you 2 or 3 questions related to that particular type of experience. You should be prepared for that, especially if you are already experienced in that field. So that shouldn't be a problem for you. After the interview, you want to send the hiring manager a short thank you email. In that email, you want to reiterate your top skills in 2 to 3 short sentences and the reason you are the best fit for the job. Remember, marketing yourself is essential. Don't be modest, brag on your skills and capabilities. Displayed is an example of a thank you email. Feel free to pause to get a good feel on what it should say and tailor your thank you email to fit your own qualifications. Be sure to check that grammar and spelling before hitting send. So I would like to thank you for tuning in and listening to the resume writing and interview best practices. I hope this seminar was helpful and you're able to utilize the methodologies in your job hunting activities. As a quick note, the Everyday Daily Real Adult Nonprofit Learning Organization conducts several other seminars for the everyday adult navigating through life's challenges and processes. So please reach out to me via phone or chat if you would like additional information. And our organization is a nonprofit, and your contribution will allow us to continue to provide free education to our young adults and local communities. as well as be utilized to provide educational material and information to young adults as they navigate through their learning and development process within the T.E.D.R.A nonprofit learning organization. Please visit our website for additional information about the organization, our mission, as well as learning information about the teacher and our board members. And if you have any questions or would like additional material from this seminar, please email me or drop a comment in the chat on our Facebook page at T.E.D.R.A Nonprofit Learning Organization. And thank you so much for joining us.